Hi, I'm John. Welcome back to Stupid Fast RC, and today we are looking at my design of an airboat. Okay, a long time ago, at the dawn of time itself when I was a kid, I had a lot of fun making an airboat, and the airboat was made out of balsa. It had an 049 nitro motor on it from a Cox PT19 flight trainer that I took off. It had a self-contained tank and a spring starter. If you've never seen anything like it, Google it, it's interesting. So that's what I had. It was control line too, by the way, so it didn't even have a remote, that plane, but I bought a remote later on and actually rigged it up so it would work, and it was a huge amount of fun. And at that time we didn't have anything in the way of electric motors that work like they do today. In fact, the electric motors we had were rubbish. So fast forward to now, and I've had a couple of goes at making this. You may remember this from a previous build. If not, you can go back and have a look at it. Kevin and I, if you know Kevin from our videos as well, made a couple, and this was my go at it. It's got two drone motors on it, or quadcopter motors, whatever you want to call them, and some controllers, and it had left and right skid steer. So that was my first attempt. It was slow, it was clunky, and it wasn't what I was looking for. Fast forward to this, and well, let me take you back one more step. I looked around online for all sorts of different designs, what people are doing, that sort of thing. You can actually buy a swamp buggy, which is, you know, quite small, and from all reports, it's not great. So make my own. That's what I did. Now, I have put together online a PDF file. This is on our website. So if you haven't been to our website before, we have tidied up our website this year and put a bit of an effort in. We were mainly a YouTube channel, but this time we've actually got some stuff there. We're going to have stuff for sale. So if you want to hop over there, take a look. We've had a couple of goes at this, but you know, we're actually getting a little bit more serious now. So that's the spiel there. I'm putting together a PDF file so you can take a list of parts and click through to somewhere where you can actually buy these parts. So hopefully they go to the right spot and it all works. If it doesn't, I will try and fix it at some point. Now, the other thing is, if you have a go at building this and you do a better job, you've got some suggestions, please go ahead. This is my prototype, and I say it's a prototype because in the spirit of build, crash, fly, repeat, this has been crashed many times. And I've had to move things around on the deck, reposition things, try different things. And so this is currently my best attempt at getting this right. I also will put the dimensions and measurements online, and so that you can actually have a go at building this, as I say. So let me zoom in a little bit closer and talk to you about some of the bits and pieces that you will need to do to make this work. Now, one of the most difficult things about making a craft like this is getting a body, or making a body that's going to float and steer and maneuver well in the water. Starting off with a boogie board like this one, which I think is a 41 inch, correct? Takes all the hard work out of it, basically, because we already know the boogie board floats and can be steered, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of upside for doing this. The one thing I will say about this boogie board is that there are no grips on it. It's a completely smooth board, so it's one of the cheaper boards. The more expensive boards that you get have got places for your feet and hand to hold, and it puts lumps in the board. This is a flat board, and that's very good when it comes to actually mounting stuff on it. So that's why I've gone for this flat board. Everything is basically glued on, and I only glued it to the surface because I knew that I would have to move things around. I wasn't really sure about the placement, and I have moved the fins and things back and forward to just sort of get this right. And I think I'm finally got that more or less right. The other thing about this is that it's got two sets of fins. It's got some stabilizing fins at the front and also at the back, and these fins actually go, they're flaps, basically. Okay, so hopefully this isn't going to arm, because otherwise it'll fly off. But you see, we've got the stabilizing flaps there. Now, that is because this board is very light, and once the wind gets under it, it's got a tendency to take off, and we don't want it to take off. Unless, well, actually that's not entirely true. If we're running over a jump or something, we may want it to take off, in which case we would, so that's the position where we would want it to stay on the ground, and that's where we'd want it to take off. And we've got a similar flap in the back here. Hope you can hear me. Sorry, I'm moving around a bit. That flap goes up and down as well, and then we've got steering. The steering's not working as well as it could do, but I'll fix that before I go out. And so that is really it. Now, someone also asked me before, are the fans all driving at the same speed at the same time? Yes, they are. The previous version I had was a skid steer, and what I did was I took the controller from a tank and used that to get my skid steering working. So if you want to build a version like that and you're not really after the speed, that's what you can do. So you can wire lead into your transmitter, and I will put a bit of a wiring diagram as well with a PDF because it's a bit complicated. As you can see, it's a bit spaghetti. Oh, look, there's a dangling piece of wire. It's a bit spaghetti-like in there, so I'll have to put a bit of a wiring diagram together for you. And of course, there may be you may come up with ideas that are a better way of doing this. But it's fairly straightforward, and I think simple is good, and it works. So I'm not going to go through the entire build, but I will just walk you through a couple of things that I've done here. This is just a lunchbox. Yeah, basically just a kid's lunchbox, and I tape it down so the battery doesn't fall out. You do not want the battery to fall out because it will go through those blades and get chopped up. How do I know it's happened? Now, the other thing that's important is this steel ring that goes over the back here. That's got two functions. It's holding the fins upright, and it is also a roll cage effectively. So when this board rolls, it isn't just landing on the props, it's landing on that wire, and it's salvaging everything. So I haven't done a full build video for this because it's taken me about a year to get this together. I've just sort of worked on this in my spare time, and it's evolved, as I say. It's been a process to put it together, but basically the steering at this end, the flaps basically control the steering. All the engines run at the same rate. Now, one of the things I've got to warn you about this is if you've got young children or anyone nearby, these motors are actually quite dangerous, where these things really do get up and go. And you need to keep your fingers away from this. It might be a good idea to build a cage around yours. I make sure that I'm not near anyone when I'm doing this, and if anyone comes past, I shut it down. But it is scary. You want to make sure that this battery is velcroed in, because the battery can come loose, and this one went up through the props, and of course with a LiPo battery that could mean a fire. So we need to be careful with all that sort of stuff. I've mucked around my 3D printer and printed up a Batman character to drive it, that sort of stuff. I've got the Punisher on the back, and a fire extinguisher, a few funny bits and pieces like that just to dress it up. But that's not part of the build. So once you've got it cut out and laid out, really I've used hot glue to stick this down. You might have a better idea than that. I've cut small trenches into the board itself and then glued them in and then wired it up, and it really is as simple as that. It's not the cheapest thing to build because the parts, by the time you add them up, become quite expensive. The battery and the motors, there's quite a few parts here, so I'm thinking it's around about $300 to build, and that's Australian dollars by the time you finish. You can pick these boards up on special, especially if it's winter, really cheap. I got 2 or 3 of them on sale, which was great. I think I paid $20 each for them, which was awesome. So lots of room to make mistakes and try again, and that's really what it is. But what I can say to you, that with the measurements that I'll provide to you, it's more or less right, and it's down to a bit of fine tuning after that. So I'm going to take this down to the park, show you what it can do. We had actually jumped this in an earlier video, but now I'm going to actually show you a bit more. Okay, because this is a swamp buggy, that means it can go on the water or also on the land. So that's the reason for running it in the grass. It will run on water. I've had a go of it on a small lake in a park nearby, and it goes pretty well on water. That water was very, very flat, I might hasten to add. I'm not sure what it would go like with any waves, that sort of stuff. But obviously with salt water, you're going to want to keep it off salt water anyway because of the electronics. But that said, the lunchbox does seal quite well, provided that you've sealed up all the holes. Now, when you go to build this, you're going to need this nifty little PDF that is on our website. Go to our website, all the information you need is there. You are then going to need this a piece of Perspex. It's 3mm Perspex. Should be able to get it at a handy store near you. I would recommend that you cut things out of cardboard first and mark them out just to see they're all going to fit, because otherwise you're going to cut up your Perspex and see that it's a bit late once you've cut it out. I would also recommend eye and breathing protection when you cut this stuff up. It stinks. Or do it outside. Now there it is there. There's some of the pieces. Oh man, those little triangles at the front there, I changed the design, and I also chamfered off these. Guys who build planes all the time will be able to tell me whether it was a good idea or not. I'm not really sure. Yes, the design changed slightly. Have a look at the PDF. I also went to a lunchbox with clip down sides. That's really important because otherwise it lets your battery go. And the other thing I did, you can see where I've removed the old lunchbox there, I recessed this one into the deck. So the first one I cut it in half, and this one I actually kept it in one piece and just kept the holes in either end to put the wiring through. So I changed my mind. See that one there? It just is sitting on top. And it was just totally the wrong type of lid, because a couple of times the lid flipped off and let the battery go through the props. Not a great thing to have happen. It makes you very sad. You'll also need some wire. My wire here was pre-bent. So it was actually already bent in a circle. If you're lucky enough to find a shop that sells it pre-bent, happy days, because that's actually quite hard to bend. And the other thing is, once you'll need to cut those slots in to make sure that you've put everything in the right place. And I wouldn't be too upset about, getting the measurements wrong a little bit, but I do recommend that you find, so that's a nasty globby bit, the middle first, and measure everything from the back and the middle so that you actually get things in a consistent spot. That would be my one biggest mistake. These servos, I used a couple of different types of servos. I've put some steel geared servos on the PDF because I think the metal gear servos, I actually went through a couple of different sorts of servos, and I thought, look, at the end of the day, we're better off just using the metal ones. I flipped this. I've had more crashes in this thing than I care to name. But that said, I came up with a better design each time. There's a bit of the wiring, and now I also changed the back of this. So this is taped on initially, but when you see the final version at the end of this video, you'll see that I actually went and used and this is it here, I used the actual hinges and the proper horns, the control horns, which are all glued on. So there it is. Had a huge amount of fun with this project, coming up with the idea, building it, crashing it, redesigning it, starting all over again. It's just been a great source of fun, and it looks great. And from the point of view that there's not much of this sort of stuff around, it's been a real thrill to do that as well. So look, I'm really thrilled to share this with you. I hope you build your own and let us know how you go. Cheers.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe and watch these crazy videos too. Stupid fast, awesome.